We're back. That's right, and I'm annoyed. No Jolly Rancher today, only gum. Gonna keep the chewing to a minimum. Why am I annoyed, you might ask? Well, that's because I had to wait about 4 days for the Parks and Rec committee video to come out. And here's a little timeline of what happened. Last Thursday, the meeting got adjourned. On their actual Twitter, they said that they were going to have the video out the following day. Never happened. So 2 days later, I go, now we know why Jared Evans wants these meetings to be done at the park. He doesn't want the meetings recorded. He wants to make it harder for people to go to the meeting. And corruption at its finest. And that's the truth. For all these elected officials that bitch about transparency, this administration, this city council is by far one of the worst about it. And that's the truth. So what happens the following day? On May 19th, you can find a recording of the meeting online. I go, are you sure about that? Because it's not on there. And then I realized they did not even have a meeting on April 8th, which I thought they did, but maybe not. So what happens? I go and retweet it, and this is the truth. Vote VOP should remove Jared Evans as the chair for the Parks and Rec Committee. Evans is corrupt and does not want these meetings to be shown live. It's been over 3 days and still no video of the meeting. This was on May 19th. And here's what I mean. No video, but what do we got here? Watch the recorded meeting the next day. It did not happen. But do not worry, because James Cook over here, shout out James Cook, retweeted that and said, "Why don't you answer it?" And truth be told, I checked it this morning at 9:14. It was actually a little bit before that. The video wasn't there. Then all of a sudden, what happens is at just before 2 o'clock, the city council, whoever runs this Twitter account, goes, "Oh, thank you for your patience. The video is on the website." This has nothing to do with the video, by the way. This is not why I'm upset. I am upset because we are regressing right now. This hog shit administration, this city council that's run by Vote VOP, when you have ass clowns like Jared Evans or Allie Brown or any of the other Democrats, definitely John Barth, when you have these ass clowns that want zero transparency of what's going on, people like me get upset. Now, for the normies, when they say, well, I don't like to be involved with politics. Oh, really? You don't want to get involved with the people that decide your future, that decide your day to day life? You don't want to get involved with this? If you were involved, these things would not be happening. Because I can guarantee you this. If there were more people that paid attention and did what I did what James Cook was doing, Ken Avador, everybody else that follows me, shout out everybody that follows me, we would have less of these problems. You don't have to go face to face with these people. You go on social media. The power is there, and we can take it by emails, by phone calls. And listen, these people, they do not like to be confronted face to face. People like Jesse Brown are absolute cowards. He refuses to meet with me face to face. He needs to have security, the police. That's right, the police that he wants to abolish before he will ever meet with me face to face. But when we have this kind of authority over us, and then they say this is what's going to happen, and then it doesn't, I guarantee you this video would have never been up if people like me, like James Cook, like Ken Avador, and all the everybody else that likes my tweets, likes my post, that aren't going after the city council. And this is what we need to do as a team, as an alliance, as the people that hate shitty government. If not, don't like government in general. Because I'm one of those guys that I want transparency. I want accountability. Is that so much to ask for? I mean, really. Could talk a whole lot more, but I'm not going to go on this giant rant because it would just get boring real quick. So we're just going to get to this, and then you will notice one thing for sure. The sound is terrible. Absolutely terrible. And this is another part that pisses me off so much. You see this setup right now? You see what I have going on? I have a $10 little green screen going on behind me. I have lights that cost me about $25 on Amazon. I have a cheap camera. I have a regular home laptop. This is what I have working for me. All of this costs less than $100. OBS is free, but yet we can't have microphones. We can't have good sound on a on a government that has $1.5 billion budget. Really? And who's to blame for this, you might ask? I blame Jared Evans. Why do I blame him? Because this dipshit wanted to reinvent the wheel. He thought he had this great idea, this big brain idea that said, we should have meetings at the park. Well, here's funny enough. This meeting that they're about to have right now, it wasn't at a park. It was at the ranger station. So don't tell me that you really wanted to have a meeting at the park when you didn't. You already speaking out both sides of your mouth. We should have a meeting at the park, but we're not going to have a meeting at the park. These are the people that you have elected. These dipshit dimwits that don't give a shit about transparency. They don't want regular people like me attending these meetings. It's already hard enough to go to a committee meeting when it starts at 5:30, but a full council meeting starts at 7 o'clock. Because if all of these committee meetings started at 7 o'clock, you can bet your ass I would be there. But they don't want people like me over there. They don't want people like Larry Vaughn at these kind of meetings when they're not at the committee or the city council building. They want them all over Marion County so they can't coordinate with anything. And if they really did not have a meeting in April and they knew this meeting was going to be happening, why did they not prepare for it? You can go and get a $10 microphone from Amazon. You can get a camera like this little shitty one that I'm recording myself on right now for like $25, $35. You can record things off your iPhone as long as they're connected to the internet, which you're not even doing it live, they're recording it. These are the things that should be on automatically taken care of. You're talking about a guy who's just talking to a camera to my loyal followers or those on Twitter that follow me. Unacceptable, pathetic. And the only people that I have to blame are the voters. You voted for this garbage because you didn't want to pay attention. You give more shits about weed than anything else, about accountability. I guarantee you that the people that voted for Jared Evans, if you look at the two precincts in Wayne Township, those the two precincts that he legitimately won, that beat Lisa Schmitz, even though she won all the other precincts except for 2, maybe 3. Those are the people that voted for Jared Evans. And I walked those areas. And they care more about weed than getting rid of property taxes. These are the voters that wanted Jared Evans in office. So, I did the best that I could with the volume. I raised it up. It might hurt my ears, but I'm trying to help you guys out because I could barely hear it. And I was about to just say, I was about to scrap this video. But I think I got it. Hopefully, let's give it a shot.
Good evening, everybody. We're going to begin tonight's Parks and Recreation Committee meeting. Thank you for everyone for being in attendance. One of the things that I set out to do as the new chair of Parks and Recreation Committee was to get us out of the city-county building and throughout our city at our parks and facilities. And while this is not a park, it is the Park Rangers headquarters for Indianapolis. And I want to shine a little bit of light on them. They're very important as we've had historic investments in our parks.
How are the roads? Hey, everybody out there right now, how are the roads?
They play a major role in keeping our park facilities safe and keeping families safe. And we'll hear a little bit more about that this evening. But in the moment, we're going to let Director Boyd begin. Actually, sorry, I'll start with introductions from my colleagues to my right.
My name's Jesse Brown. Thank you, Mr. Chair. District 13, which is the near east side of Indianapolis.
You ever like look at somebody and you just want to drop kick them? That's this guy right here. That's that guy.
Delaney, District 2, far north side, 96th Street, south of the White River.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dan Boots, District 3, Lawrence, Washington Townships.
Frank Mascari, District 19, southeast side, Garfield, Beach Grove, in that area.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike Doak, District 24.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Ane, District 22, South Side, Southwest Prairie Township.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Josh Bain, District 21 on the far southwest side.
And good evening, Chairman Evans. Krista Carlino, District 11, West Side.
What the
And
hell?
I am Chairman Jared Evans, representing District 17 on the far west side. Colleagues, just as a reminder, I do things a little bit different here. When the floor is yours, it is yours. Please be respectful and kind, and don't make me have to get involved in your questions. Director Boyd.
What? Listen, there isn't, except for Josh Bain. Except for Josh Bain, there's not a single counselor that's willing to challenge anything from the council. Josh Bain, he's becoming one of my favorite city councilors right now. Hey, is my pause game on point or what? Look at this.
Boyd, you have the floor.
Good evening, councilors. It's great to host you here, and thank you to the park rangers for allowing us to be in their space and for all that they do for us, with us. We wanted to bring before you first consideration of Indy Parks entering into a lease agreement, the Kuntz Sports Complex.
We got traffic noise behind us, so we can barely hear you.
Can you hear it?
What'd I just say? I'm gonna send an email to VOP. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send an email to VOP, and I'm gonna tell you what to type, what to write, and what to email to VOP tonight. That all kind of rhymed.
That's only for Channel 16. Okay, so we can't hear.
Yeah.
Did you hear any of that?
A little bit.
Say she needs
Welcome, everyone.
Where's the microphone? Just get a microphone and plug it in.
Our first order of business is to bring before you a proposal to enter into a lease with Rugby Indy for the use of, and shared use of Kuntz Sports Complex.
Is it Kuntz or Kuntz? And by the way, look at the background. These are all city employees, okay?
The last time, how many of you were part of remember the Pan Am Games?
Pan Am
37 years
Games.
ago. That's the last time that Kuntz Sports Complex got any major investment. So, and it looks like it. So we know
Dude, it's a legit just soccer field. What do you want, okay?
that the potential for that site to have a lot of activation, a lot of community programming is there, and we're looking at this as an opportunity to have that site get improved and to serve the community in ways that it hasn't been able to for quite some time.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Lisa Lemming with Indy Parks, and I'm the finance.
And before I forget, if you're still listening, I will have the PDFs in the description below of what they're going to be looking at. Because
Manager. I'm going to go over the details.
I
of the
do
process
love
that we took
marketing.
To get to where we are today. So first of all, I want to make sure y'all know what we're talking about. Kuntz, we call it Kuntz Soccer Stadium for
Is
short,
it?
but it's the Indy Sports and Soccer Center, Kuntz Memorial Stadium. It's over on West 16th, 1502 West 16th, right there between Harding and Riverside Parkway. So the process we took, we did a RFP, which is request for proposal. We did advertise it a couple weeks. We did the RFP asking anyone out there that's interested in entering into a lease agreement to provide additional programs, to renovate, to enhance the facility. So that was published in November. We had a pre-proposal and a walkthrough on the site in December on a cold day. And then the proposals were due in January. We received proposals, and I'll go from there. But this is the facility, you kind of see the red lines around it, what it all entails. The parking lot, the 2 athletic fields, the stadium, there's a concession stand in the back, as well as the offices, right close there to 16th Street. So why do an RP? It definitely needed refresh, rehab. As Phyllis said, it was built for the Canyon Games, so it is needed significant increases. The tenant is responsible for the capital investments on the improvements, and these improvements, with changing the turf, it will increase the utilization, more time. Right now, with the natural turf, a lot of times it has to rest. Or, you know, it's raining, so then it has to rest, or it got used a lot, so it has to rest. So with the synthetic turf, there's more utilization. So we received the proposals. We had a diverse team that evaluated the proposal.
Hey, good thing for that diverse team, huh? It's working out so well.
And then we went into contract negotiations.
I like how, man, look at the eyes. She is wound up, and he is very worried. And he's got the blue steel going on right now.
Actually, before contract negotiations, we did a lot. We allowed them to do their presentation. It's Indy Rugby, Rugby Indy, DBA Riverside Sports Properties. So we had several meetings with them. They did their presentation of the proposal. We asked several questions, several discussions, and then went into the contract negotiations.
I got a feeling I know where this is headed, but I'm just gonna wait.
So as a result, we would like to enter into a 20-year lease with the option of 2 5-year terms.
Dude, you could hear the car outside. Just pathetic, you know.
The tenant is going to provide improvements estimated at $12 million. They're also responsible for the ongoing maintenance, any repairs, any other improvements, utilities, staffing, basically the whole operation. And as I said, they will be increasing the utilization of the facility, not just through the improvements, but also additional programming. They're going to also target multiple sports. With it being a rectangular field, you could play, you know, rugby is the largest field size, so you can still play soccer, you can still play football, lacrosse, and I'm not the sports expert, but you can play, you know, whatever on the rectangular field. The big thing that we added in the agreement is at least 50% of the usage has to be community-based. So
What does
we
that
know
mean?
they're, you know, looking at getting additional people in to play, but we want to make sure that we're not eliminating any of the community members. So
You don't want it to be private. Okay.
Around 750 hours of community use that will continue. And as the total utilization increases, at least 50% of that needs to be community use.
So if, say, you have 500 hours, 250 of the hours of it being utilized has to be through community use. That's what it sounds like to me.
And the 750 is our staff.
Yeah, the 750 is our staff. We will still have a staff person on site that will provide and work with those user groups for the 750 hours.
Could you speak to the $12 million improvements?
I think that's
Yeah, it's coming up.
Okay.
Just wait your turn, man. Hey, relax. Let her finish her presentation, man.
Okay, as far as revenue, I know everyone wants to know about revenue. Basically, they are spending approximately 12 million in revenue. When we got the appraisal, the facility was appraised at a rental value of 120,000. So if you take the 120,000 times 10 years, it is about 1.2 million. For the 20-year term of the lease is like 2.4 million, and they're investing 12 million. So in lieu of rent for the first 10 years, we're counting all their improvements. Beginning in year 11, we will get a percentage of the revenue, of the gross revenue, right off the top. And that percentage is 3 to 4%, depending on what their gross revenue is, based on the chart there. All right, so here's some of the fun improvements. So they have the improvements based on in 3 phases. The initial phase is the west stands, the concessions, wrought iron, and
Oh my God, this is
fencing.
terrible.
The
Hold on. God, this is absolutely freaking terrible. Where is it? I'm gonna help you guys out here right now. This is what they're looking at. God, you guys are the worst. Just the freaking worst.
stadium field, so that's huge, changing that to synthetic turf, plus the drainage permits, pitch contingencies, practice field bleachers, retrofit the sound system. So that right there is like 3.265 million. And phase 1 will be completed within the first 18 months.
So
of the
1.5 million for synthetic turf, huh?
So
Interesting.
that's really like the basic, those field improvements are huge. Phase 2, the east stand, the scoreboard, LED perimeter board, festival plaza, renovating and increasing the current office space, and putting a bubble or / dome over the practice field. And with that, that will allow year-round play. That the bubble. Phase 3 is talking about an entry plaza. Yeah, the entry plaza, and then we just have like the total costs and architecture fees, which total all that.
Probably should have separated that out, but hey, whatever.
We do have some photos, here of what it will look like with the upgrades 1 through 4.
Not on my end.
So you'll see here that the main field is the east field, the one on the right, which has all the bleachers, and the dome will go over the west field, the one on the left.
I gotta do your job. I gotta do your fucking job for you. So the dome will go over here on the secondary field, and then the primary field is over here. And this is 16th Street. It's Riverside Drive. Oh, North Harding Street, huh? Interesting.
That's right now, we call it the practice field.
Is the secondary
Those
field.
fields will have the artificial turf, and then with the dome, they'll be able to practice, train, play year-round as well. We do have the organization here with us this evening that can answer any questions as well. But just wanted to see if you have any questions for the director or myself.
Yeah, just briefly, so just to summarize this is a public-private partnership in which we'll receive a $12 million investment on the facility that hasn't received investment in close to 30 years, 40 years. for a 10-year agreement with regards to them not having to pay a lease. That's adding up to 1.2.
Wait a minute.
So it's a pretty good deal for the city of Indianapolis, I think, in that regard. Were there any questions from my colleagues?
Wait, I thought they were getting 1.2 million over 10 years. Yeah, they're getting like 120,000 per year.
Councilman Scary.
Thank you. My major.
Oh, by the way, if that's really how it's going to work, that they don't have to pay anything for 10 years, remember, these people, that would be over 2.5 terms for everybody. In 10 years, some of you watching this won't be alive. I don't know how old you are, but
The question is, it's still always going to be Kuntz Stadium.
Kuntz.
It'll never change. I know the Kuntz family.
I know the Kuntz family.
Back in the 60s,
They're
the
wonderful
CYO
people.
was real involved in that. That was actually the home field for Cathedral High School back years ago. I remember as a small child playing football there with the CYO programs. It will always be Kuntz Stadium.
Kuntz Stadium.
I think we can do that. There's been some discussion of sponsorships, and those can range in ways where you can keep the main recognition name and say such and such at Kuntz Stadium, or such and such presents Kuntz Stadium. So we understand the importance of that name.
Do you?
One more. With the percentage of revenue that you're going to receive, is this after the net costs? In other words,
That's
it costs
gross.
them X dollars, or are we getting it from
It's
the gross? The gross revenue, it's not after their expenses?
Right, we always do our percentage of revenue off the gross.
Okay,
So
thank
that
you. That's all I need.
we're not concerned about all their expenses.
All right, thank you.
I got a feeling, though. That's going to be totally screwed up because they have 10 years to plan for this thing, and who knows what that stadium will be like in 10 years. Maybe they'll set it on fire in 10 years so they could have insurance fraud for it. The city and the Kuntz family and these rugby people can all join in on the insurance fraud in 10 years. If it doesn't
Councilor
turn out the
Fabio.
way they think it
Thank
will.
you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. My questions are about the regard to hours and public usage. You said currently it's about 710 hours.
50.
750. And then a 50% dedication. Just to do rough math, is there a guarantee?
We did a mapping of available programming hours for both fields, taking into account what time of year and then also resting time. And really the total amount of hours is around 2,000 or so, depending on if it's a synthetic field or not. So that 750 is just the Indy Parks committed hours for programming. There's also another amount up to that 50% that is also community programming hours.
So
not
it's at least 750 community
And
hours.
the reason why I ask, especially in the improvements phase that involves putting the bubble over the secondary field, I imagine then it will cut the usage and the hours in half or significantly decrease those, and to make sure that still community programs would be prioritized during that time. Or at least the amount of hours so that programs wouldn't have to be cut. So maybe during construction, the percentage may.
Let them deal with that. That's not your problem, Carlino.
Community access as priority.
Barbie, that's not your problem.
Another question, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, the floor, counselors, the floor is yours once you have it.
He has made that
The-
he has made that clear since day one. Once you're talking, keep talking until you're done.
Artificial turf, we've had some conversations about artificial turf in my district on the west side, and being so close to the river, my question is, with permitting, is it a floodplain? Do we know, we can't construct the artificial surfaces in the floodplain.
Well,
So I didn't know
then there's probably a good chance that it's not in a floodplain.
if we had anybody that could speak to that.
This is not in the floodplain.
It's not.
But you are correct in thinking that we are going to have to do a lot in terms of mitigating the stormwater. So that may look like underground storage here.
Really? Really? That's interesting. I don't know how I feel about that, mostly because I don't know much about underground water storage, but that is mighty fascinating. just a quick side note, I don't want to make this video for too long, but construction is like a second love to me, especially water management. I have been renovating my house for a while now. Obviously the last 2 years I haven't been able to do much because of campaign stuff. But if anybody has looked up Matt Rinsinger, he's on YouTube. He was one of the first people that I watched back in my previous house back in 2017 when I lived in Canby. Um, was water management. Like water is the killer. And hey, if you want to get a little bit soft and kind and cute, I always relate water to life. You have to manage water just like you manage life. Too much of it might kill you.
And then my final question is about that improvement timeline, or is there a timeline for improvement? I see the cost and the short list there, but was just curious with sort of 10 years being the payment. Any ideas on timeline for phase 1 completion, phase 2, and so on?
Phase 1 commitment is 18 months from execution of lease, and then the other phases would be coming along. The goal, and I could let the gentleman speak to that, one of the goals is to be ready to be a part of the World Cup in 2030, 2031. So
Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. I'm hoping that you guys heard this. I got the volume cranked all the way up. Their plan is to have the World Cup in Indy in Kuntz Stadium in 2030 or 2031 or whatever it is. Not gonna happen.
necessarily a site for the actual games, but a part of the system of like where the teams are practicing.
Oh, it's a practice field for the World Cup. Okay, maybe that. Maybe that.
Are there stormwater improvements as part of the shared cost, or is that something that the city would have to fund?
That would be on the leasing.
On the lease. Thank you so much, Madam Director, and thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Councilor Colonnade.
Thank you very much, Chairman Evans. First and foremost, this is a great project. It's good to see new life breathed into a facility that I think has served the city well and has served its purpose, and so it's always good to see these private-public partnerships, and I think the transformational impact it can make on the community. I'm not super familiar with this area, so forgive me if this is an obvious question. Is the Riverside Sports Properties LLC, is that a long-standing organization or group, or is this something
Great
new?
question.
And if so, who is a part of that?
The gentlemen are here, and I can actually ask them to come up.
I want to see these people. Oh, I bet she's a recorder for like
Director, would you mind if I go
Very
ahead and
indie or
have a few
something.
more counselors ask their questions, and then we'll give them the floor.
Sure.
And if Counselor Nay has more questions, he can ask at that point. Counselor Brown, and then Counselor Boots.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to make sure I understand the hours of community use. It sounds like from day one, there's a commitment of at least 750 hours per year. Do we have an assessment of how many hours the community is currently able to access?
That's based on our current.
So in other words,
current
that'd be
program.
no hit to community hours.
Not at all.
That's awesome. And then, I noticed like we have $1 million of the 12 million is for operations, which makes sense. Do we have an estimate, like I know you mentioned there's a concession stand, et cetera. Are we currently pulling in revenue for the city? Like what is our current revenue and expenditures that we'd be getting rid of for this deal? If you have that.
We
I
are,
think we're operating at a negative.
yeah, we're operating at a negative right now.
So no cost. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
If you heard that site is operating on a negative right now, but somehow we need more parks and recreation. We need this history investment on the things that actually are making us lose money. Great call. Great call.
Counselor Boots.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for the presentation. I love this idea. It's one of the few ideas I've seen where
Like a Carlino cheesin'.
it really has a significant impact on the community with minimal investment, and really where the community is being served quite well, and I think it is a focus of this project. Just to Two quick questions. The 750 hours, is that the
What is up with the 750 hours? Who cares?
current programming, or is that going to be programming from day one?
Did he
What's the
just
current
ask?
usage?
The current usage is 750 hours.
Okay, and so you expect it to go from there to a maximum of roughly 2,000 being the capacity of both fields?
Whatever that 50% of total programming availability is, right now when we calculate it was around 2,000, that would be still the goal. So 50% is the magic number, and what that actually works out to in terms of actual availability and whether the fields are synthetic and usable for more time is.
Okay. So the 2,000 then is the maximum two fields can generate a year? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you had mentioned in your initial discussion 18 months for phase one. What's the schedule for phase two?
Yeah, so phase two.
That's pretty impressive, honestly. If you look at here, I know I'm trying not to pause this video too much, but that's, if it actually happens, it'd be very impressive because we know how much of a shit show everything is right now. Of this. Talking about structure upgrade and that, brick fencing, stadium field for synthetic, pitch contingency, practice field bleachers, and retrofit the PA system in 18 months. Dude, I have sent out 3 requests to have a pothole fixed on my street in a 1.5 month time. It shows where the priorities are. Maybe I just need to be a billionaire. Maybe that's all I need to do to get the roads fixed around here.
Director Boyd indicated our intention is to have the facility fully prepared to position Indianapolis to compete for the Rugby World Cup men's tournament in 2031 and the women's tournament in 2033. That means that the site selection activities for that 2031 competition will start in late 2026 or early 2027. So phases 2 and 3 will follow phase 1 shortly thereafter, but we are cognizant of managing field usage and maintaining the 750 hours as Director Boyd has indicated. So we will be balancing the construction schedule,
No way that'll be get done.
schedule with usage and working towards that late 26, early 27 time.
So we expect 2 and 3 to be done by then?
Done or pretty close. Our belief is that we need to be able to demonstrate to the site selection committees not just renderings, but actual progress and to that final stage.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor of this proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Delaney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things I was hoping that you could explain, and maybe this is for Parks, is if you're like a local soccer team that's using the field, what is your current fee that you pay? And then if the lease is signed and this goes through, then what will they pay? Like, what's the change in a community usage fee?
Part of how we charge for fields is the level of the grade level, and actually Quince right now is managed at a pretty high level, so I don't know that we'd be charging any more for that use unless it's coming up across the board, across the system.
Okay. So the fee would be the same. I know you're saying it could.
A synthetic field might be different, right? Like but that would be based on like central greens, and that's our only other synthetic field that we have in the system.
Okay.
So
I see what you're saying. It would be based upon a comparable grade field within the Indy Park system.
Old bobblehead at it again.
Would be the same across. This one isn't going to be priced separately from other Indy Parks.
not for the communities.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Jeez, look at that bobble.
And then I also heard that you say that the parks revenue actually, there is not going to be like a negative shift because right now you're in like negative revenue. This will actually generate revenue for parks eventually.
In 10 years. If it's still around in 10 years.
Okay. And then last, I know Councilor Boots was talking about the investments, but is there anything in the contract if for some reason the investments don't get made past phase one, or somehow we just get stuck in the middle of this development project?
Yeah, we do address, they must make phase one improvements all within the first 18 months of the execution of the contract. So that's important to us, that they make all these basic, I say basic, but they're very necessary improvements that need to happen, or they would be in default.
All right. Thank you, that's the rest of my questions, Mr. Chairman.
When is Paul N.A. going to get his
Thank you, Mr.
question
Chairman.
back?
Looking at the revenue there on slide 7, it's the 0 to 3 million, 3 to 5, and 5 plus. What's the average revenue that it's bringing out? It's negative, right? Like we're losing money.
We're about 40,000 revenue coming in,
Okay.
and our expenses are over 100,000.
So we'd be making a pretty big jump
In 10 years.
then. But I know you mentioned like the Rugby World Cup, but who would you anticipate being some like the biggest leases here? Like who would, like, is it other leagues from around the city that would be coming here and they're the ones paying it? I'm just trying to figure out how you come to like the $3+ million revenue when it's making about 40,000 now.
Chairman Evans, is it okay if I try
If
to...
you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, yeah, thank you, Chairman Evans and councilors. My name is Bill Arrett, a lifelong resident of Indianapolis. Grew up on the west side, went to Indianapolis Northwest High School, very proud of it. Fortunately, it's a middle school now. Played JV football game at CYO Field against Cathedral. So
Who cares?
very honored of the facility and understand and respect what we're trying to accomplish here. Brian, you want to go ahead, and then I'll jump into answering Councilor Bain's question.
I'm Brian Williams. A pleasure to be with you today. Also
It's a
an
pleasure.
Indianapolis native, proud graduate of North Central High School and Indiana University.
Don't care.
So, to answer your question, we have with us a guest that is supporter Derek Tao. If you want to raise your hands, we have a professional ultimate disc league here, a team called the Indiana Cats.
Oh my
They
God.
currently play their home matches in Westfield at Grand Park.
Oh.
I can let Mr. Tao address the reason he would love to be back downtown in Indy at the Kuntz facility.
That's what this is all about. This is competing with Westfield, and Westfield does have a nice park, by the way. They invested a shit ton of money into there so they can get a whole bunch of things going on. This is what this is about.
That's what's going to drive the tremendous increase, because the improvements, the level of improvements that we're going to make to the facility, IHSAA, Indiana Soccer Association, Indy Alley Cats, and then we turn to what was a catalyst for this project at the very beginning, professional rugby, or rugby in general, both USA Rugby, and trying to attract a sports governing body to our city, where we currently house a lot of sports governing bodies. So those are the kinds of things that we're basing our revenue growth on, and certainly our profitability on, and return to private investors of the capital, and hopefully a return on the capital. But personally, this is a passion thing we're doing here in a lot of levels. But we're also, business people, and intend to make it very successful for the community and certainly for the city of Indianapolis.
Thank you, gentlemen. Councilor Boots?
Yeah, thank you. A couple just quick questions that I forgot to ask the first time. On certain screens, you talk about phase 1 through 4, but on the one chart improvements, we just have 1 through 3. What is the fourth phase? Could you go to the picture and have to explain that to us? Yeah, this is the oversight. Some of the things that you've got in the description of the facility, what we talked about in phase 1 partially is this reorientation of the main entrance down here to this southeast corner. I think, as you're all aware, there's significant investment going in 16 Tech, which is just down the street, and there are discussions and plans or visions around how to connect this with pedestrian and bike pathways.
Probably an
Also
overpass.
to complement Riverside Park and the new promenade that's been established there and plan to bring south down to the White River. So we think there's a tremendous opportunity to connect all of these facilities, and by reorienting the main entrance to this southeast corner, it makes it easier ingress and egress and attracts more pedestrian and bicycle users to the facility. You also see in the description the Festival Plaza up here. So this will be a permeable concrete pad that we talked about. This will allow us to do a number of things, not only for the benefit of the stadium, but also for the community. So we see this as a potential area where we could have food trucks on the weekend, where we could host graduation ceremonies on the field and put up a stand, those kinds of things. Phase 4 specifically, Counselor, that you were asking about is down here in this lower southwest corner is a parking garage. We know that if we are successful in attracting the kinds of users that will drive the revenue question of just a moment ago, parking will be an issue. We want to be good neighbors. We don't want folks on the streets around. We know there is parking available just immediately south by a couple of blocks at 16 Tech. There's a new parking garage there that can be used. But this phase here will allow us to accommodate more parking on site. And the neighborhood groups have also been interested, if we build this finally, that we put first floor retail in there, because as you may know, in this area there is not a grocery store, there's not a bank that's available, and so we are definitely looking at this and thinking about how we can work this into our plans. The final piece of phase 4 is then down here, the performance facility and upgrade to the office space. So if we're successful in some of our efforts, we think developing a performance center, high performance center here will further attract users to the facility, will give us an opportunity to collaborate with the Indiana University School of Medicine, which again is just immediately south on the other side of the White River, and drive more awareness, more traffic, more activity into the stadium. Does that answer your question?
Sure does. Where are the current, like, state rugby championships, which North Central has won a state championship in rugby, as a footnote? Where do they currently play?
Why is she smiling like that?
They play in a lovely town called Elkhart, Indiana.
That's the north part of the state.
I think it's somewhere, north of 96th Street. I don't quite know where it is.
Wow. Very cute.
But that's where it's held. It's a nice set of fields, but it's not a stadium environment like we're proposing here. It doesn't have some of the benefits the city has, the hotels, the dining, what's happening at 16 Tech. So we think this kind of environment for rugby, for lacrosse, for field hockey, those kinds of sports will be attracted to a facility like this to have state championships.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I want to apologize to my colleague, Counselor Paul Lene over here. He asked a question earlier, and I intended to have
what
you
happened,
guys
man?
go after the counselors got done with their questions.
Rude.
So I lost track of that. But
Rude.
The floor is yours, Counselor.
Well, I'll make it brief. I was just curious to learn a little bit more about Riverside Sports Properties LLC. Is this something new? Is this something that has been established for a while? And regardless, who's made up of it?
Sorry about that, Counselor. So, Rugby Indy, let's start there, was formed 4+ years ago because professional rugby was kind of growing in the U.S. There are currently 12 teams. And one of the members of our Rugby Indy group is a IU school graduate, Kelly School graduate named Bryce Campbell. Bryce plays for the USA national team. He's a graduate of Cathedral High School, played club rugby for the Royal Irish, which was a Chittard Cathedral club team. So that was the catalyst 4+ years ago. And as we've evolved this project and talked to the community and talked to other potential users like Mr. Tao back here with Ultimate Disc League, we formed Riverside Sports Properties to be the management company so we could kind of like step away from the rugby kind of focus. It will be part of it. It'll be a big part of it because that's what was the catalyst. But we want to make it clear that all field sports are welcome, all types of them. So that organization was recently formed for that purpose. But to make it players, okay, the people, 2 of them are here, 2 of them are not here. Bryce Campbell's traveling to Houston because they play the Houston SaberCats this weekend. And he plays for the Chicago Hounds right now, which is a professional Major League Rugby MLR team. And then Will McGee is, Mark Williams, Brian's brother, who's the executive director, is it title executive director or president? The Arts Center in Bronderville. So comes with marketing background, advertising background, and that's our team. We're all the four members are from Indianapolis, lifelong residents.
Well, that's wonderful, and congratulations on what's a very impressive list of letters of support.
Thanks for the question, Chairman.
Councilor Carlino?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for maybe Madam Council. This is Coombs Stadium in which council district? I'm looking over the letters of support and I didn't see the district councilor and I just wondered, is it Bob?
President Osley.
Okay.
He is supportive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. Again, really impressive letters of support. Very diverse and exciting to even think about. I drive down 16th Street every day, and I'm over here like, I know I'm in the middle today, but there is not a parking garage currently sitting on that corner. So thank you so much. That's a really exciting piece to the project, and I look forward to supporting it as well. And would like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Councilor Delaney, and then we're going to wrap up questions with Councilor Dilk.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I believe Councilor Renee's question really covered most of what I had to answer, but I did wondered about the Mark Cuban reference in your sponsorship letters here and how that came about, and is he an investor?
Isn't he a rugby player?
In
Or
any of
former
the
rugby
financial
player?
day investors?
And he works with IU or some shit.
Like Bryce Campbell and myself, Mark Cuban played rugby at Indiana University. The three of us also sit on the board of the IU Men's Rugby Club and its endowment, so we are acquainted. Yes, Mr. Cuban is committed to investing in this project along with us.
Thank you.
Councilor Dilk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, Vision Academy is up in the left corner there, and I know they utilize the facilities now. Will that continue, or will that hinder any of their use, or?
Yeah, that's a terrific question. As Bill said, we're Indianapolis natives. We want to see Indianapolis continue to succeed and thrive. We think sport, driving economic development and creating opportunity is one way for us to continue to be a vibrant city. We have been in discussions with Vision Academy, and in the list of letters of support is one from Vision Academy. In fact, when we talked to them, one of the challenges that they expressed to us was their inability to find programming for after school for the kids that go there to Vision Academy. And as you can see, it's immediately adjacent to the property. So what we have talked about, and we have not finalized anything, but what we have talked about is, are there ways for us to facilitate after-school programming for the Vision Academy for those kids? And that time window that it might be necessary, roughly 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., would be in between times that maybe a professional rugby team would be using it, because they would use it earlier in the day, and it would be before the times that the recreational leagues would be using it, because those are mostly after school and early evening hours. So yeah, we are in discussions with them about, can we work something out that is a good neighbor for Vision Academy.
And I'd like to add one other thing, is we've been in touch with the athletic director at Riverside schools and Heron schools, and they are extremely excited about starting men's and women's club high school rugby programs. And
Oh, wait a minute though. First off, what's a woman? And second off, will they allow boys to play in women's sports?
being able to use the facility.
Will anybody ask that question?
Thank you, gentlemen. Any last remarks to the committee? I would like to hear from the gentleman back here at the Alley Cats. I'd like to know what it is about this proposed, if you'd come up, introduce yourself. Specifically, if you could just speak to what it is about what they're proposing that would allow you guys to move your matches or games?
Yeah, they're games.
Okay, games to the facility.
Yeah, I'm Dirk Tao. I'm a lifelong resident as well from the west side. Chaplain, Fulton, Ben Davis, IUPUI, IU degree. And there was about a 4 o'clock came back, but I got involved in this league in 2018. The league, our team's been around since 2012. We actually played 2 seasons in Coos Stadium, 2013 and 14, where that was our home. We want to get back down there. The team has constantly pounding me, oh, is this going to happen? Is it going to happen? So we're excited to bring the team from Westfield. We play inside of Grand Park now. We bring the team from back downtown. We think we can double or triple the size of our crowds that come to our games now, which is around 500 or so. Plus, bring out the business downtown. So the restaurants, we've got a connection with Goodman House, which is right across the street. Sure. 16 amp. My studio is right there. I live a mile north of there. It was like all just coming right back into the city, and it's a great shot of downtown from the stands. I mean, everything is working for that. And we've also got a women's pro Bolton team in town too. We would certainly be willing to have them come and try to become a tenant as well. But, yeah, we're excited about it.
Thanks, Derek. There's a common denominator here. We have all these great people from the West Side, especially when they come from Ben Davis. I'm going to allow Chairman Biscari to ask a quick question.
One more question. Grant Park versus this, how much more money is it at Grant Park in Westfield?
For our game rental,
Yeah.
for field rental, it costs us about $1,500 a game.
Wow.
So that just gets right into our hearts, but plus gas to get up there is 30-minute drive from downtown.
Okay.
So getting our fans up there is the hard part. So being back downtown would boost all that stuff. So but that's what our rental cost is right now for about 4 hours we rent it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Derek.
That'll also will be added to the sponsor.
Great, thank you, Counselor. Gentlemen, last remarks.
So we really appreciate the opportunity to be before you today and the consideration or working with the Parks Department and the neighborhoods. We think this is a tremendous opportunity to revitalize the important asset to Indianapolis' history and position it for long-term success. So thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I can add to the counselors and to the chairman and to the parks director and staff is thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience from the public who would like to make a remark or have a public comment?
Well, of course not. How do you think people are going to be able to get down there? Larry Vaughn would probably say something, but...
Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Well, I think we have to thank you all. Proposal number 136 will move to the full council with a due pass recommendation.
Don't you have to...
Everybody said yes, didn't they? Oh, we took a motion and didn't take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, all those opposed? Seeing none, proposal number 136 passes. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is what I think it is. This is just like India 11. It's a bunch of rich people that are like, hey, this would be pretty cool if we can play like rugby stuff. We used to play rugby all the time. Why don't we have our own team and then we could just do it over here? And now what's going to happen is, and I have to double check on this, but if they're not having to pay for anything for the first 10 years, except for, the $120,000 per month, but they're going to be on the hook for the $12 million. I don't know how I feel about that, because after 10 years, you're saying, oh, then we'll start collecting revenue. Well, that's 10 years, man. That's a decade. And you don't know what things are going to be like in a decade. Is that rugby stuff even going to be popular anymore? I mean, you're talking about 2034 right now is the practice field for the World Cup. Is that even going to be... Are people even going to use it? I mean, there's just so many question marks. And a problem with when you're in a setting like this and you're thinking like, oh, in 10 years, it's going to be great. But dude, we need something right now, not something a decade away. Sure, maybe at least we won't be in a net negative, huh, man? You know what I'm saying, bro? It's just the typical shit. Everybody's just so short-sighted and everything. They don't see the long-term consequences or the long-term vision. This is why you need somebody like me in office or in some kind of control, some kind of authority. Because I'd be asking, it's like, well, what happens if it doesn't? Are you on the hook or are the taxpayers going to be on the hook? Because I got a feeling the taxpayers are going to be on the hook. Just like this whole India 11 or professional soccer team debacle that's going on right now.
Thank you. Director Boyd. Would you like to do a brief update or a quick update here?
We have some announcements to share, and then we'll move into the update on the Ranger program today.
Counselors, while we're waiting, the Frederick Douglass Park Family Center will be opening up on May 23rd. You all are invited to attend. That's going to be our newest facility in our Indy parks, and I believe it is going to be the largest family center in the city now.
Yeah, you know what? You're only able to go if you don't have a job, like Jared Evans doesn't. No job, lives with his parents. It's funny. It is
we
funny.
Need to hear it twice.
Oh, want to hear it twice? Hey, bucko.
Absolutely. We are really thrilled to announce that we're going to have the ribbon cutting for the new Frederick Douglass Family Center on May 23rd. That is next week. And it'll be at 11 a.m. Love it if you all can make it. If you can't, the next Parks Committee meeting will be at the Frederick Douglass Family Center. So you will get a chance to see
11 a.m. People are at work during that time.
it and get a tour. This, remarkable building is going to have 2 full basketball courts, a walking track, multi-purpose rooms, green space. There's a large new playground that's also going to be a part of it. So when you come see it, it's going to be really beautiful. We will start opening up splash pads this Saturday. 16 will be opening up on this Saturday, and then another 4 soon after in the following weeks. We have an additional 4 that are either part of an active construction site or will be, and they'll be opening in the coming months, or are being scheduled for improvement. So the timing of those last 4 remains to be seen. You can find a full list of the splash pads at parks.indy.gov/pools and splash pads.
Hey, isn't it funny that these people that care about the environment so much are also wasting tons of water?
And then we will once again be opening pools in phases this year, with the first phase of pools opening on Memorial Day weekend, following by more openings on June 1st. Pools are undergoing testing this week, so when we have a final word on what is actually open, we will publish that list. On June 6th, we're going to be hosting a free community swim day in partnership with USA Swimming, the Indiana Sports Corps, and others. And this is part of the larger focus on swimming in the lead up to the U.S. Olympic swimming trials that are happening later this year. We will also be hosting weekly free community swim hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 6 p.m. at all of our pools that are open. The newly completed Sexton Park playground, you can be seen on the upper right there. And that is one of the 22 new playgrounds that we'll be installing this year. Work is ongoing at other locations, including Ross Play Pool, Municipal Gardens, and we're really excited to see those projects open up to the public in the coming weeks and months as part of the historic investments that we're making in the city parks.
Who's going to maintain them?
Any questions on any announcements so far? In general? Yes.
Quick one, just my annual question. Some Park, yes.
We're working on it.
Okay.
He's like, he asks this question all the time. Where's my park? When does the North End get their park?
Here. Yes. Any details?
Listen, bud. You're not hitting the park. Okay?
Hear me?
Yes.
We are actively hiring staff. Good evening, everyone. Kim Campbell, Deputy Director, Operations and Programs. So we are undergoing hiring right now, and our park manager for SOM is hard at work. About a month ago, we had no staff, and in the last 2 weeks, he's almost hired all of his staff. So SOM is preparing to open very soon.
And no mechanical issues
None so far.
so far, okay. All right, that's right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
My question was going to be about summer camp registrations and how those things
Hey,
are coming
look who's on her phone. Just saying.
along as well? Are they filling up quickly?
They are filling up. We are not at full capacity yet this summer. Last summer, all of our camps did hit capacity and had a wait list all summer long. So we still have some open spots. Several of our EE camps, our environmental education camps, are full, or with very few spots left open. But for our traditional campsites, there's still spaces available, as well as scholarships.
Thank you so much.
And I think we've had more success.
Scholarships.
Scholarships this year, so great.
I would love to hear an update on those scholarships at our next meeting if we could, to see like the amount of dollars that have served families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tax-paying dollars, by the way.
With that, we're going to go into our update with Ann Solzak with Pro Consulting to share the findings from our review of how to grow the park rent program.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. As Director Boyd said, my name is Ann Solzak. I'm Senior Manager of the Public Sector Consulting Team, also located here in Indianapolis. Not as much of a lifer as the party in front of me, but just down the street in Fountain Square. I've been there about 10 years. So as Director said, some of you joined since we kicked off this project about this time last year, honestly. With the goal of understanding the current state of the Park Ranger program and how we could best grow and sustain the program to serve the network of 214 parks. To go through that process, we first started with a current state assessment. We did a series of peer benchmarking analysis and then put forth a set of recommendations. So all of those were standalone deliverables. I'm going to do my best to summarize all that information with you this evening. As I go through, I welcome any questions for further details or any other supporting information. So, 4 project goals with this effort. First was to assess the current program structure and characteristics of other similar peer communities. Then to understand the appropriate number and scope of the rangers to effectively support the city's network of parks. Determine the level of law enforcement authority and training of the park rangers, and then to provide recommendations on how to grow and sustain the parks to support the park's mission, as well as the number of investments that are going into park facilities and operations and programming. So with that, the first slide here, you all have it printed in front of you, okay? You know, some of this is lots of words. So the first slide here is a summary of our current state observations. Again, a full report supports this information. We found our observations to cover 5 overarching themes. The first of which is capacity. Within capacity, we discussed findings around how the Indy Parks programming, facilities, and network continue to grow with significant investments in the programming, the facilities, and the events. And that requires then investment in expanding the Park Ranger program to support all of those needs and provide an appropriate level of service. We also heard that the Park Rangers are a respected group in the city. They really do serve a niche role. They are within IMPD, but they have a special understanding of local ordinances, the parks, their unique amenities, the patrons of the parks, and that came out clear. And I realized I forgot to note at the top of this, these observations are based on a set of stakeholder meetings we conducted. That was with the parks leadership themselves, IMPD, city department stakeholders, community leaders, etc. So wanted to note that this is a summary of about 10 different meetings, some of which you all participated in as well. Next, I'll drop to the next theme is organizational structure. The Indy Park Rangers, in kind of their current capacity, have been in the city since the 70s. And through that, as you all are well aware, there are administration changes, priority changes, the vision of the program changed. So that has left the Rangers in the current state in kind of a gray area due to just shifting priorities and an understanding of what their role is. The next point is around compensation. We noted in our findings that park ranger pay had been and is constrained by contract issues and may not be reflective of market trends. Next is enforcement authority.
What do they do?
Many stakeholders we talked to desired for the park rangers to maintain law enforcement capabilities, because that was a question we posed, but also striking a balance of community engagement. So really that idea of people feeling safe but welcome at any Indy park. And then final theme is recruitment and training. a couple points here is just that community members desire the park rangers to reflect greater diversity to match that of the community, as well as kind of a nuanced observation, but there was a passage of a Senate Bill 187 and attributed to ILEA training requirements and how that is associated to the ranger program. So just continuing understanding and discussion around how that applies.
So what she's saying is, listen, there's too many white park rangers.
Any questions there? Yes. Oh, I can't. Sorry.
Counselor.
It's on comprehension. Aren't they represented by the FOP?
No.
They're not. Who are they represented by? There's only 11 park rangers, right?
Yeah.
According to this, it looks like 11. I can't read, it's pretty small. Pardon me?
I was just asking if Lieutenant Kintner would be able to.
Yeah, I believe that they may have been in the process of choosing who was going to represent them. Formerly, it was the state FOP, I believe, but not the local FOP.
Yes, that is right. Thank you.
Due to...
Right. And there is not a signed, executed
Yeah.
union contract currently, unless that's changed in the last few
Lieutenant Kidner, do you want to speak to that?
I'm Lieutenant Kittner.
Sorry to pull you up.
The contract that 2 years ago the city sent to the Rangers, they rejected it the first time, and then the city sent it back and they accepted it. It went back to the city and disappeared.
Who represents you?
The FOP, State Labor Council.
State, it's not local.
And they currently are, and they're about to begin negotiations again.
Okay. I have a question with regards to their pay disparity. I just want some things to be on the record in front of some of my colleagues, because while they may not have had negotiations or contracts signed, I'm still, and I've expressed this frustration to Chief Bailey and the previous chief as well. At any point in time, I think IMPD could have insisted that they receive pay increases, because I am of the opinion that they are woefully underpaid.
Listen, you're also a member of the party that wants to get rid of them. All right. And you have a council member in that committee that wants to abolish the police.
Not having read through this report, that was my opinion, just knowing what it was. But I think since then, there has been some pay, I'm going to use the term balancing here. Parity and balancing, because some were paid, there was no understanding why they were paid, what they were paid. Can you speak to that at all?
I can, and again, welcome, Lieutenant. Maybe you should just pull the seat. We last met with IMPD, and there's some overview of our discussion towards the back of my presentation around late February, early March, and there was discussion that there would be an adjustment to that next payroll to be more not equal but in line with other IMPD officers. Prior to that, there was a significant gap between a ranger and an IMPD officer, as well as gaps with the market research we did in our peer analysis.
Right.
Did I answer your questions?
Well, I was hoping to get some sort of clarity on what has taken place in the past month or two, maybe, I think, with IMPD and HR.
They did adjust pay for the ranger that was making significantly less. They adjusted him and brought him up and made a baseline. They gave all the rangers a certain percentage, I'm not sure exactly what it was, but they brought all the rangers up some. It was about $2,000 maybe.
And is it my understanding that the pay scale now, while it is not IMPD's scale, it is following suit in the different,
Having a matrix.
the
Is that
matrix.
what you're
Yes,
saying?
that'd probably be a good way of putting it, the matrix.
The department wants that, and they want that worked out through the current contract negotiations.
Okay.
That's one of the things they said.
Okay.
And currently, a ranger's base pay is at 71.5% of an IMPD officer's pay.
Which is what? Can you give us a roundabout number?
I think a third-year officer for IMPD
85?
is about 75 something, 75 and a half. And so a ranger would be, I think it's at 56.5, somewhere close, and then their longevity on top of it.
Okay.
But what are they actually doing, though? That's what I want to know. Like, you got an IMPD officer that's patrolling the streets every night. Is like, or what are you doing? Patrolling make sure no picnic baskets get stolen.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Like apples to apples, man.
Any other questions on this slide? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chairman Evans. So I'm cheating and went ahead to the next slide a little bit to partially answer my question. But in terms of the enforcement authority, I noticed that in terms of Peter City, pretty much everyone who asks park rangers to actually serve as law enforcement agents also arms them. And so I'm cognizant of that, but just for my ignorance, like what sort of law enforcement goes on in parks that requires officers to be armed or rangers to be armed? You mentioned the summary of many stakeholders desire this. Any examples to help me understand better why that's necessary?
Here's an example, dumb fuck. Because you get crackheads in the parks that don't know how to control themselves. What do you want? You want to get somebody stabbed? Remember, this is also the guy that doesn't want police to be around at all. He wants to abolish the police. He believes no one should carry a gun. But this dumbass called the cops on a black kid.
So I think, and again, maybe Lieutenant can help me here, but he said something early on in the project that made me think, the neighborhoods don't stop at the parks. So it's really any crime that we see throughout the city can and does happen in parks. There are situations that can escalate as much as they're trained to de-escalate. And so I think with some of our more urban parks, it is potentially a necessity to be armed in that way. And then what was the second part of the question? I'm sorry. Something about the stakeholders.
Yeah, I guess I was just asking, were there specific, because, to the Rangers' credit, I haven't heard many incidents of officer-involved shootings or ranger-involved shootings.
So I am recalling my conversations, and quite honestly, a lot of the call for rangers to remain armed came from the park managers themselves, whereas a lot of the community leaders were calling for them to not be armed. And so that's where I tried to blend that together in understanding that the park rangers need to be able to operate and have that viewpoint, but how do we still make it feel safe and, welcoming to the community members?
Because people are dumb. That's why. If you're going to be an enforcement officer, you should be able to protect yourself. Someone should ask Jesse Brown what he would do if he was being attacked.
We'll come and interact. And that came up too. Rangers are more approachable law enforcement officer, just on face value.
That makes me recall a conversation we had with an incident, I think it took place out in the parking lot, and someone pulled a weapon and shot someone just a couple of months ago, I think, at one of our facilities. Councilor Carlino?
Remind me, aren't our parks designated, or weren't they recently designated by the mayor as gun-free zones? Or am I recalling certain areas, certain parks?
So
This dumb shit.
The ordinance stands in state statute, a city property we cannot ban weapons.
Yeah.
By ordinance, so
This
you would not
idiot.
discharge a weapon on park property. If you have an event, or you have a discrete amount of time where you have a license agreement or lease for a particular site, that entity with that lease can declare the area a gun-free zone, but the city itself and Indy Parks cannot.
Let's just get this straight. Carlino and Jesse Brown do not want female park rangers to protect themselves from some guy that might rape them. What does that tell you about Brown and Carlino?
So, a family reunion at a shelter in Eagle Creek Park, there potentially could be multiple armed members of the public present, possibly.
Is she an idiot?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is she like, be real, is she a fucking moron? Short answer is yes.
Counselor
She's a
Rant.
dope.
I already skipped over you once earlier, so please take that.
Can't see.
Might be moving too far ahead. If so, I'll be happy to wait. So one thing that I would be interested in hearing a little bit more about is there any type of forecasting on what you think our park ranger force or group should look like? You know, we have a pretty definite amount of officers on the Indianapolis Police Department that we're looking at. We know when we did the violence reduction strategy how many peacekeepers we wanted to have. So is there a number we should be working towards? And then same thing with these park safety ambassadors. I think that's a good idea. I do think our park rangers should retain their ability to carry firearms. I think it's very important. I think that just about everybody that goes to a park, at least in my area, would want to know that there are park rangers that are there to serve and protect. But I also think it'd be nice to have some of these ambassadors, and I look forward to hearing a little bit more about this.
Hey, Jesse, you don't have a job. Why don't you become an ambassador?
As the slide goes on.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Yeah, actually.
Although I don't explicitly have them stated in here, but I'm happy to talk about it because we did do that. Okay, I'll stay where I'm at for now. So just to quickly orient us to this very busy slide, we did benchmarking analysis against 12 communities. These were selected geographically based, some based on just models we knew that they were using and interested, similar population communities to Indianapolis. Important notes here, again, a lot of information, but one column of interest is the parkland per personnel. And as you can see, Indianapolis compared to the other communities is lagging behind, with the only exception being Kansas City, Missouri, and they are actually currently rebuilding their program. Another thing I just wanted to touch on quickly, it was kind of brought up already, the model column. These are abbreviations based on a slide.
Where's the
that's
slide
not
at?
in this presentation.
Cameraman, what are we doing
P stands
here?
for Park Police, PO stands for Peace Officer,
Ugh.
and PS stands for Park Security. What we found was there was a broad range of park public safety programs across the country. We were really hoping for some best practice, silver bullet approach. Pardon, that wasn't a good analogy.
God.
But that just doesn't exist today. So where our team kind of concluded was these programs were built depending on governance structures, funding availability, the culture of the community, the makeup of the parks. And so I guess my point there is it's really up to the city of Indianapolis to determine kind of what the vision is for this program ourselves.
I'm guessing
and
this
then
is the
put
slide that she's on.
Any further questions on the benchmarking?
We're gonna let you finish this up. We'll take questions when you're done.
Okay, thanks. So quick summary of recommendations. So based on our observations and our benchmarking, we put forth 7 recommendations.
Oh,
First off
look.
was to better define
As soon as
regional
I start putting it up, the
organization,
camera
really
actually
gray
pays
area that
attention.
rangers currently reside in. Determining the appropriate reporting structure between parks and IMPD.
You're the
and what
worst.
that leadership structure
The
and
absolute
communication
worst.
looks like. Developing a junior ranger program. There's actually some funding earmarked through Employee Indy for this type of a program. So just a nod at building some capacity and also building the pipeline for future rangers. D is establishing a community engagement program. We heard a lot
Then she takes it off.
in our stakeholder
Good.
sessions about how, and this is duh, but how much ownership and care people have for their parks, especially the pocket parks and neighborhoods that might not get the same traffic from a ranger or what you'll see as a PSA. So
It's almost guaranteed most people aren't going to give a damn, and here's why. Look at all the trash in those communities.
how we can strategically and intentionally engage neighbors to kind of keep an eye on the parks. There's an interest in doing that. improving data collection and sharing with IMPD. There's a lot to say about this, but essentially there's data quality issues which make some of the forecasting and coverage decisions more challenging to make. So I know there's some efforts underway in how we can better clean and scrub that data to create a more accurate picture of where things are happening and how we best cover that. Realigning ranger training to fit community needs. This is really just about diversity, equity, inclusion, and those types of programs. And then finally, we touched on it earlier, but really taking into consideration them and their union arrangement and what makes the most sense so that they are treated appropriately. Oh, I'm not allowed to say, okay, can keep going. Okay, so next steps. So we did meet with the IMPD command staff. I believe it was late February, early March. Director, Parks leadership, command staff. And in that meeting, they expressed, we, Crow, made a number of different organizational recommendations on how this could look going forward. And in that meeting, they expressed their desire to retain the Ranger program within IMPD. A part of those proposed org structures contain this role, Park Safety Ambassador. And there was an interest from IMPD and Parks in establishing and building out that program to build Parks safety. So what that would look like then is the Park Rangers stay in IMPD with law enforcement power, but we would also build this additional function and group as Park Safety Ambassadors who would be out in the park, bring about more visibility to parks and a presence in the parks, answer questions, be a resource, be trained to de-escalate, be able to write citations, but really kind of be that first point, and have the park rangers as backup per se.
This is actually a fun thought experiment that if you were to use the same for traffic enforcement, you get these people that are area ambassadors or whatever, they can write citations. Like if someone runs through a red light, boy, that's kind of like the therapist going in with IMPD and trying to de-escalate, right? Nothing bad will come of that.
We did do some back of the napkin math. It was primarily because the data wasn't great through the CAD system. It was primarily based on just ratios of what we were seeing with the other peer communities, and we were estimating around 45 rangers would be optimal. Obviously, that can't happen immediately. So, over a multi-year growth pattern, that would be the goal. To start, we were suggesting a goal of 20 rangers and 10 public safety ambassadors over the next year. IMPD made a verbal commitment in that meeting to invest in the ranger program in Crow. So with that, I think I'm pretty much done. My last slide is just Crow has been asked to stay on and help facilitate this process further. Really
you could hear their air conditioning get kicked on.
Working with all of you, other community members, determine the vision of that program and then implement it. So with that, I can conclude.
Thank you. Can you, real quick, when you mention ILEA, which is the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, what is the current process now that we are potentially seeking to hire additional park rangers?
So this is a great question. I should have brought my notes.
Because for the committee knows,
yeah.
I think of the, how many park rangers are there?
11?
9?
Oh.
I think only 2 or 3 are certified. 4 are certified ILEA. And then that's what's created some of this confusion because others are not. And there are people who have concerns about others not having that training. So moving forward, what is the process? Are they going to be...
I have a very clear answer because it is still a little messy, to be honest. I'll speak to this and I will come back up from either of these folks. So there's actually 3 tiers of training in ILEA. Tier 1 is full law enforcement training. And then there's Tier 2, which is typically...
Man, that lady behind here, she has some really long hair.
So more limited law enforcement. And then Tier 3 is like special prosecutors and things like that. The current interpretation, unless something's changed, I've been out of loop for about a month just while we're working through starting this next piece of the project. The conversation was around Rangers being at a tier 2 level based on Senate Bill 187. So current state, none of them, unless they come with ILEA training, go through ILEA. The discussion is potentially sending to tier 2 last fiscal IMPD. But they were still
What the hell is going on here?
Still also trying to figure it out, quite honestly.
Okay. Kim, I want you to reach out to Major McLemore with Chief Bailey and request her at our next committee meeting in June. Because I think these questions are going to have to be questions that are asked of them. Quite frankly.
Oh, 187 was from last year. That's why I couldn't find it.
Uncertainty among them as well, so that's why I don't know.
Thank you, Kim. Questions? Councilor Carlino?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the matrix.
Shut up. This is interesting. Provides that a special law enforcement officer employed by the city of Indianapolis full-time after June 30th, 2023 to perform park ranger duties is subject to the same training requirements as regular law enforcement officers. Provides that the facilities of the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy must be used to provide a park ranger with required basic training. And it looks like it went, yeah, it was approved last year. It was signed by the governor. It's public law. Very interesting. All right, go back. Whatever you're going to say, Blondie.
Slide 10, I noticed there isn't a pay column or an average pay column. Is that something that you pulled from your data, and if maybe we could get an amendment to see?
I can provide you what we found. As you can probably understand, getting apples-to-apples comparisons across all communities was challenging, and pay is not something that's widely advertised, unfortunately. So we were able to pull it for a few communities, and so I can provide that for you as an improvement.
And I think, thank you. I think those pay questions, since the proposal would be to keep the park rangers under IMPD, I think some of the pay and contractual questions and law enforcement training sort of go hand in hand with the labor contract and should be had by those individuals that you requested, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Councilor Paulinet?
Yeah, thank you. Just want to follow up. First and foremost, I appreciate the chairman requesting IMPD and Chief McLemore. It's important that the Rangers are able to carry firearms. For me, it's also important that the police department and the council and others are able to make sure that the level of training is there. And I know the lieutenant and he does a fine job as a ranger in our city, but it's very important that we are made aware and continue the conversations, because there has to be, in my opinion, some form of certification from the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. I was just curious when it comes to the public park safety ambassadors. I assume that as this program gets built out, some parks may see a ranger, some parks may separately see an ambassador, some parks may see an ambassador and a ranger. I mean, there's different ways to spread them out through the park system, but there does not have to be hypothetically a ranger with an ambassador. I mean, they can operate kind of exclusively separately. Is that correct?
How our DNS inspectors operate, or our animal services inspectors operate. If they need law enforcement.
Oh, look, the AC finally turned off.
I think it's an excellent thing, and frankly, I think the way that the city has handled the park ranger issue is embarrassing. I don't blame any one particular person, any one particular administration, one particular council. I don't think it's meshed well for a long time. And I'm just really pleased to see some of my colleagues who have initiated these conversations, others in the city, and of course the good work that's been done to evaluate the current plan. My last question is just out of curiosity. When you take a look at the just lost the page. When you take a look at the chief of park safety, I assume it's a civilian. Is that correct? It's
yes.
A civilian over the ambassadors.
It's a civilian that has had.
Yeah. No.
Perhaps.
Okay. Great.
Thank you. Councilor Boots?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not a question, just a comment or suggestion. I'm a big fan of researching preferred practices so that we're not reinventing the wheel. So I
Oh,
just encourage.
what did I just say at the beginning of this video? Jared Evans reinventing the wheel. Hey, Bootsy, maybe you should talk to old Jay Evans about that.
Encourage you to continue down this path of looking at peer cities. And I know it's not always apples to apples, but you can often find a nugget of very valuable information that we can adopt and would translate well into what we're trying to do. Because I too am a firm believer that our park ranger system is at times being treated as a poor stepchild. And that's sad to see from a governing body when we see the investment we're trying to make in parks. I think the ranger system needs to likewise rise with that rising tide as well. So I'm looking forward to supporting these efforts as best we can and learn more, not only in the park ranger side, but also the ambassador safety side as well, because I like that idea very much as well. So
Yeah, who's going to sign up for it? Hey, by the way, if you want more pay, you're just going to have to raise taxes. Hate to break it to you.
please just keep up the good work.
Councilor Delaney and then Councilor Brown will finish questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to commend Phyllis for involving Crow in this.
We
As
got
a
two
former
bobbleheads
director of
right
the
here.
Enterprise, I know how hard it can be to tell your story.
Two
and understand
big
you have a problem and
dipshits
the
bobbleheading
things going
together.
on, and so I really commend you for involving
They might
Crow
create
and
a
getting
black
data.
hole
There's not
of
enough
crap.
data involved in decisions made in the city county enterprise. So I really want to thank you for bringing this to us. And I do echo what Councilor Boots said, continue to bring the data and what you're doing. Has OFM and the mayor's office committed to the funding for this yet?
What'd I just say?
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Chairman Evans. Thank you for all this. This is really great and very eye-opening for me, being new to this committee. I did want to ask, I mean, I understand our city budget is what it is, and we have a lot more dollars in public safety than in other areas, and especially in the context of rangers are really being community police officers in many ways. Makes sense to have more rangers this coming year. To me, it seems, just based on training, pay, everything else, like we would eventually want a lot more park safety ambassadors than rangers, and it would be like, rangers are almost a tier 2 escalated support. Is that just, I see nods, but that's the vision we have?
I think, yeah, I think so, yes. And I was just gonna add, I think these are all questions we'll be asking too over the next few months, just as.
Who's gonna do it though?
Operation model going forward.
If you are an ambassador, you're not getting paid for it, most likely anyway. So you're volunteering your time. So who's going to do that? A bunch of boomers? Huh?
It's definitely something we're talking about.
Thank you.
I can't even get a hold of my neighborhood ambassador.
I guess my remarks on that would be that currently the Rangers answer 911 calls and take those calls. Typically when they do get involved, they are dealing with potentially very violent individuals, unruly people. I think to Councilor Paulinet's point, I'm of the opinion that what has transpired over the last few years towards the Rangers is embarrassing to the city. They are law enforcement. They may not be IMPD and actual police officers, but they are a part of the law enforcement community, and I think they do have and play a part in protecting the city. 20 doesn't seem enough to me when I think of the over 200 parks that we have and the amount of family centers that we have, and when you're considering that a lot of I had 2 incidents over the course of about 2 months at Cranard Park, with one individual getting shot in the head. So I appreciate the effort, and I know I'm speaking to 2 people who probably are not the ones that need to hear this. I know a lot of it's going to go to Major McLemore, OFM, and Chief Bailey as well. But I can't, and I love the idea of the the civilian program as well as something that we can have.
Yeah, I'm
so
sure
it's
that'll
not in any
turn
way,
out
shape, or
just
form
fine.
Trying to move away from that, but I do think in particular the current situation that we have with our park rangers is extremely embarrassing for this city, and I hope that whoever is listening
I don't know.
and whoever is on 25th floor is paying attention and is ready to take it and be very serious about it when the budget season begins for us.
Are you ready for more taxes? Boo, 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 boo.
That said, any last remarks?
No, just thank you for your time.
Thank you, Director Boyd, and thank you as well. Appreciate it. And Lieutenant Kidner, I think, went and sat down. Appreciate him as well. Last remarks. Next meeting is going to be June 6th. We will have that committee meeting. It is going to be at Frederick Douglass Park in their new family center. That'll be 5:30 p.m. That's June 6th at the brand new Frederick Douglass Park Family Center at 5:30 p.m. Seeing no further business for this committee, we are adjourned.
All right. Shut up. All right. So that means they have 3 weeks, because this video was on last Thursday. That means they have 3 weeks to get their shit together. That's what that means. And I also wanted to bring this up too, is that I'm not done with you, Council, Indianapolis Council. This is what I wanted to make sure that everybody sees what I posted. After they said, hey, thank you for your patience, the video is on a website. And I'm going down with the ship on this one. I don't care. And this is what I posted. What a giant clusterfuck. You can barely hear anything. Jared Evans needs to be removed as chair and put these meetings back at the city county building. How does a city with a $1.5 billion budget not have microphones? You got the air conditioning playing in the background. You can barely hear anything. And the only person that I'm blaming for this right now, right here, and until we stop having these meetings at the parks is going to be a combination of Vop Osley and Jared Evans, because Vop Osley put Jared Evans as the chair of the Parks and Rec Committee. So this falls on you. And you know what? This also falls on District 17, who voted for him. Now, there was a meeting today. I might do that one. It was pretty short. We'll see what happens, though. But, till next time.